Like many citizens, I too started off using a keyboard and mouse in my first few months of Star Citizen life. I had never used a joystick setup in other games and I really didn't have much knowledge about them. I kept hearing about how much more immersive they made the game, and I slowly became curious. If you're here watching this video, then you're likely in the same boat that I was at the time, interested in how to get involved with joysticks in Star Citizen, but a little confused on where to start with all the joystick options and configuration types available. I'm here to help, and we're going to start right now by answering why you may want to switch to using joysticks in Star Citizen, and look at the different hardware options that exist as well as their typical configurations. If by the end you think you've learned something that has helped you, please consider subscribing to the channel to help us grow the community, and let us know in the comments below what joystick configuration you plan to try in Star Citizen. The main reason to use joysticks in Star Citizen is to have total analog control over your thruster outputs that translate to pitch, yaw, roll, and strafes of the ship. When piloting with a keyboard and mouse, the strafe and roll movements are all done in a digital fashion. This means that every input is an all or nothing situation, with the thrusters being either fully on or fully off, depending whether the key is pressed. When switching to analog joysticks, however, flying can become an extremely immersive experience that can make you feel more connected to the ship and the game in general. You will gain direct analog control of your thruster outputs across their entire range, which will give you a much more gradual and creative movement experience. They will also give you more precision when navigating tight spaces, landing, and even when using strafes and roll to help with your gunnery aiming. There are three main setup types that will allow us to bind the 6 individual ship movements to physical analog axes, and they are called HOTAS, HOSAS, and HOSAM. HOTAS stands for hands on throttle and stick, and is the traditional joystick setup that most people think of coming from other flight games. In order for this setup to have full analog control over your ship, however, you will need to make sure you have an analog mini stick on either your throttle or joystick. In its basic configuration without pedals, the right stick controls the pitch and yaw of the ship on the X and Y axes, and the twist controls the roll of the ship. The throttle controls the forward and back. The analog mini-stick will control the up and down and left-right strafes of the ship. By adding pedals to the setup, the roll can be moved from the right stick's twist to the Z-axis on the pedals, which can help aiming be more precise as less actions will be done by the right hand. HOSAS stands for hands on stick and stick, and is also known as dual stick among the Star Citizen community. This is by far one of the most popular configuration types. In its basic form, the setup uses left and right sticks with a twist to control all 6 degrees of motion of the ship. It's set up in such a way that all the strafes are handled by the left hand, and the right hand controls the pitch, yaw, and roll of the ship. On the left stick, the Y-axis is bound to throttle forward and back, and the X-axis is bound to strafe left and right. The twist axis controls the strafe up and down of the ship. On the right stick, the Y-axis is bound to pitch and the X-axis is bound to yaw, with the roll of the ship being controlled by the twist axis. If you've never used joysticks before, this setup is what I would recommend most pilots start with in Star Citizen, and is also the setup I started out with as well. Adding pedals to this setup opens up 2 very popular configuration options. The first is a setup I used for many years and simply moves the roll from the right stick down to the Z-axis of the pedals. This again allows for better control of the roll since it's not being shared on the same stick as the pitch and yaw, and can be controlled independently with your feet instead of juggling multiple actions with one hand. It also allows for a right joystick to be used with a locked or no twist, which can help reduce accidental movements when trying to aim. In the second setup, the left stick is no longer used for throttle forward back. Instead, the Y-axis on the left stick is now used for strafe up and down, with the X-axis still controlling the left and right strafe. This creates a one-to-one mapping of your left hand movements matching the direction of your ship's 2D movements on the screen. For example, if you draw a circle with the stick, the ship will strafe in a circle on the X and Z axes. This helps pilots track their targets more consistently in combat, as the strafe becomes almost like a pointer in the 2D direction you want to move the ship in relation to the target. The roll is now put on the twist of the left stick. The forward and back movement is moved to the Z-axis of the pedals. Some pilots also opt to use racing pedals from companies like Fanatec to control the forward and back movement. I personally use a variation of this setup that removes all twists from the equation. I use the Z-axis on the pedals to control my roll, and the toe pedals are my throttle forward and back, similar to a car. HOSAM stands for hands on stick and mouse, and is a hybrid setup used by a lot of combat pilots. This setup forgoes the right stick in favor of using a mouse for pitch and yaw, as well as for aiming. Ideally, you want to be using pedals with this setup, but it can be configured to work with a mini stick as well. In its basic form without pedals, it's very similar to the left stick of the basic dual stick configuration, but you'll need to use an analog mini stick in addition to the traditional axes. The X and Y of the left stick are bound to the strafe left and right, as well as the forward-back movement. The roll of the ship is controlled by the twist, and the strafe up and down axis is controlled by the mini stick. Adding pedals is really where the HOSAM setup shines for most players. Throttle forward back is moved to the pedals, with again some players opting to use racing pedals instead. The mouse controls the pitch and yaw as well as your aim, and the left stick controls the strafe up down and left right on the X and Y axes. The roll is controlled by the twist. This is very similar to the last dual stick setup with pedals we looked at, where you're using the strafe stick like a 2D pointer on your screen and can be very useful in combat situations when strafing to different quadrants of your screen to track a target. With any of these setups, it's going to feel awkward when you first start out. It's important to give yourself a couple of weeks to get used to things no matter which configuration you pick here. The best way I've found to use a new setup is to jump into a single player Free Flight or Vandal Swarm and Arena Commander and just keep practicing until things start to click. Eventually it will happen. There are many different joystick, throttle, and pedal options out there from various manufacturers. At the entry level, there's the Thrustmaster T16000M that a lot of beginners start off with, including myself. They don't have a lot of buttons on the grip, which can be a challenge, but they do have a twist and can be used either left or right-handed. They don't have analog mini-hats, however, so keep that in mind depending on the configuration type you plan on using. VKB has an entry-level set called the Gladiator NXT, which are a good alternative to the T16000M for the price. They come in a left and right version with their Cosmosema handle, and they have a twist that's also lockable if you wish. The Cosmosema grip also has a mini hat, which makes it viable for non-pedal setups. On the higher end, VKB sells the same Cosmosema handle with their Gunfighter 3 gimbal, which is an all-metal version but is more expensive. They also sell right-handed specific sticks called the Modern Combat Grip Pro and the all-metal Modern Combat Grip Ultimate. Both MCG versions also have analog mini sticks and can be purchased with an optional locking twist. Virpil is another company that sells both left and right-handed sticks, and this is what I generally use on a day-to-day basis. They have several options, but by far the most popular is the Constellation Alpha series with a Warbird gimbal. The Alpha comes in a left and right variant that has a lockable twist that is super smooth and also comes with an analog mini stick. The Warbird gimbal they sell is the smoother of their gimbal offerings and can also be used on the tabletop or mounted if desired. Pedals can be a bit of an investment when trying to find a solid set with Hall sensors. Thrustmaster has the TRP model, and VKB has a version with no toe brakes called the T-Rudder that is an up-down style of pedal. Virpil has two different styles of pedals. There is the A series that comes with or without toe brakes and different foot plates, as well as their new Torque series, which is similar to the VKB pedals and don't have toe brakes. MFG Crosswinds are another boutique brand that has a great reputation. I've tried them all, and I personally use the Virpil A series now with heel plates, but they are definitely an investment. Thrustmaster makes an entry-level TWCS throttle made to pair with their T16000 series, and it does have an analog mini stick and paddle. CH Products make a CH Pro throttle which has a mini stick, and I believe Logitech's X56 series has one as well. The most high-end throttle is probably the Virpil CM3, which has tons of options, but of course it's on the very high end of price. There is also the Thrustmaster Warthog throttle, but it doesn't have any analog mini sticks, so keep that in mind. If you're serious about getting into joysticks but would like to get them off your desk, there are several desk and chair mounting options out there from reputable companies. I've used Monstertech mounts for years and have had great results with their products and customer service. If a North American presence matters to you, there is the US-based company called Foxxmount that I've also heard good things about as well. I hope this overview on joysticks and Star Citizen has been helpful, and if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to comment below or jump into our community Discord and join the discussion there. If you want to see more Star Citizen related content, please give this video a like and subscribe to join our community. Thanks for watching.